Hi, it's Barrett from the All About Nothing podcast. This holiday season, make your celebrations unforgettable with ZJZ Designs. From festive Christmas prints to cheerful holiday designs, we've got everything to spread the joy. Introducing Eddie the Elf, dashing through the snow on his sled, perfect for adding that whimsical touch to your holiday wardrobe. Whether it's cozy sweatshirts or statement tees, find the perfect fit for everyone on your list. Ready to slay this season? Visit ZJZDesigns.com. ZJZ Designs, where style meets the holiday spirit.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 287. I am Barrett Gruber. I'm joined by Mr. Preach Jacobs, host of the Preach Jacobs podcast and columnist all over the place. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm okay, man. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's been it's been a little while since you've been on our show, and I think it's been a little while since I've been on your show. So, you usually have a bunch of things you run through for your show. Yeah. I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, I guess we'll get to that in a bit, man. Like it's been a lot of stuff going on. I think the last couple of episodes of the Preach Jacob show has been dedicated to the elections that we had in November.
Yeah.
And then I think that by the middle of November to now, things just got really, really, really hectic. Some of it was work-wise, some of it was personal-wise, some of it was just, not the best of news, but we'll talk about that as well. But I think that this kind of serves as a way to kind of talk in December about kind of tying a bow on some of 2025 stuff that's been going on. So I think this is cool to kind of use this episode for both of our pods right now.
Yeah, this is the last episode of our season because we'll take off the next couple weeks. We'll probably still do kind of daily show, maybe Monday nights for the next couple weeks, and then come back. But it's been quite a year. It's hard to really put a finger on what were some of the biggest events, but yeah, the elections in Colombia went from being what felt like normal to explosively just so much going on between Sam Smith and Jessica. Yeah. What did I say? Did I say Sam Smith? Sam Johnson. Sam Smith is the... Yeah. But yeah, so Sam Johnson and his campaign, an eventual election, as well, Jessica Jessica, holy crap, what is wrong with my brain? I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, anyway, so Jess, on the day of the election, she's having a post that people that want to vote for her, like there was just so much confusion, and I feel like we keep having these sort of things happening with elections. It's for me, one of the things that I keep going back to is it's really up to the people that are voting to understand and know when the election is, where they're supposed to vote, and it's part of what I tie all of it into voter intelligence, and so it's not really the responsibility of the candidates to tell people, but when misinformation comes out there, it's really up to the people to look at it themselves and figure it out.
Well, I got a bit of I'll tie this in kind of personally, and this kind of ties into the Sam Johnson oddity election, which Sam Johnson won it. I had both Sam and Oddity on the podcast. I've also had Jessica on my podcast. Let me backtrack a bit. So there was about a couple of months ago, I did a column. I'm a columnist for 3 Times Post-Courier. And I did this column about AI slop and about how misinformation kind of just, hit the ground running. And there was a story that was featured on Facebook that said, I had a baby with Dawn Staley. And there was a picture of Dawn Staley and I, which is a real picture that I took after one of the games. But there was this whole story. There was a picture of a baby. There was this whole thing saying that we had a kid. It didn't use my name, but it was basically saying she had a baby and had a picture of us insinuating that I was the dad. And
Right.
and I'm not kidding. The post had about 300 something responses, a ton of likes and shares, and people saying congratulations. And I bring that up because I think what makes things different than elections before is that it's one thing to say, know where you're going to vote at, know the dates, know this and this and that. That was always something that was a voter's responsibility. Now, what you're dealing with that I don't think we've seen as much in the past has been like gaining traction is that now voters have to deal with what is real and what's not real, right? And we're not just talking about a liberal versus a conservative slant. We're talking more about is this entire image that we're seeing or this entire story just completely fabricated and just thrown into some AI machine. And so I wrote about this a few months ago about me having Dawn's baby and kind of talking about the difficulty. And I wasn't even talking about politics, but I was just talking about just writing for publication or a news organization, the extra steps that people have to take before they're resharing information, because the people that are making this stuff up, they don't really care about the accuracy of it, right? They don't really care about the chaos that started. Like as soon as you click on it, that's the engagement that they're looking for.
Right.
And so that translates to what was going on with this election. And I haven't spoken about this. I wanted to write something about this, but I'd be honest about you. It was just so much drama going on at one time because I think that you had the local elections where there was like this drama that was tied up with the Oddity and Sam Johnson. Then there was an issue because I write for the Free Times. I also have been a performer and supporter of New Brooklyn Tavern. There was like a public fight that New Brooklyn Tavern and the Free Times is having that was very, very, very public. And then at the same time, Finley Park was reopening, and there was this really huge pushback on the clear bag situation. And so I was thinking of writing about something, kind of talking about how Columbia is kind of lit right now. But there was a part of me that just felt like things were just a little too turbulent to kind of talk about it. And so for the people that don't know, one of the things that came up, and I'll say this kind of clearly, like when I was interviewing everyone for the podcast, I would have candidates wanting me to like publicly endorse them. And I would always say, I can't publicly endorse you because I'm covering all of y'all, right? So if I'm covering you guys and then I endorse someone, it really doesn't make any sense to have another candidate that is running against you or running with something else. Like I kind of think I'm more valuable as a columnist or as a journalist or as someone that's have a platform that you come here and speak on it to make it, somewhat fair to have people to be able to talk about their platforms and communicate kind of in a non-biased or a publicly biased situation. So I'll bring that up to say, I've known Sam, I've known Oddity for years, and the election got really, really tense. There were things that came up where Oddity's social media situation was saying that Sam Johnson's campaign were behind very, very ruthless, racist, xenophobic attacks. And when people were asking for screenshots and evidence, my interpretation, a lot of that looked like just fake AI slop. I'm not insinuating that somebody from either campaign was responsible for any of that stuff, but it did look like something that kind of came from some bots, you know. And this is to the untrained eye, so whatever. Like I'm not SLED. I don't know if there was an investigation, but one of the things that got really, really, really murky at some point in time, Oddity went on the record and was saying that it was Sam's campaign that was responsible for these comments and for a lot of this hate messaging. She also said that he should drop out of the race. And then when I saw some of the interviews with the news outlets and the state newspaper, and they asked did she have any proof as to whether or not you knew it was from the Sam Johnson campaign, because I think one of the comments that she said that his top supporters were behind it. There was no evidence or no proof stating whether or not Sam's campaign was responsible. And that was kind of a big deal to me, because I think that is really, really important when we're having conversations about elections and things that, look, man, these are local elections. It's not a lot of people that are voting for these things to determine these seats. So we're not talking about a massive amount of people, which also proves the point that it doesn't take much to sway people to another direction. It doesn't take much to ruin somebody's career. It doesn't take much to ruin someone's reputation. And I would always say that if there's evidence of any of these things, of misappropriations or racism or xenophobia or just really nasty politics, I'm never a fan of that. Um, these are local elections. Talk this shit out. You know what I mean? Columbia
Yeah.
is really, really small. But I say that from somebody that's in the community. It got really, really ugly.
Yeah.
And it made me very uncomfortable as just somebody that, was just looking at how that stuff was going. So Oddity made
Yeah.
claims, and then Sam had a press conference, and you had a lot of people that were really, really angry and really, really frustrated. And then there was after Sam won, Oddity posted a message to her supporters. It wasn't a concession speech. It sounded very, very angry and frustrated. There was an incident that I heard about that happened at Finley Park that I'm not going to get into gossip about, but it was something that made me feel like, okay, it felt like a bit much, especially for
Yeah.
local politics.
Well,
And I
and
wasn't the biggest fan of it.
yeah, and just to point it out, like you mentioned, you've known Oddity, you've known Sam, these are people that you've known for several years, and I imagine that there is a bit of a relationship, as friendship or what have you, but there's integrity, there's implied integrity in both of them. Just based on the fact that you had both of them on your podcast, you had them come on to talk about their campaigns and the issues and such that affect Columbia. So when you see that sort of thing start to fall apart, when in reflection of what you've tried to represent, or you've tried to at least allow them to use your platform to express themselves, and you begin to see that fall apart, it makes it difficult to honestly, it makes it difficult to want to be involved anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
I didn't want to be involved at all. And the only reason I'm speaking about this is because it's been kind of like a month since
Yeah.
the election, and so there's kind of, I don't know. There's still some tensions going on right now, but it at least feels like things have kind of calmed down a bit. Because I think that as much as I want to like write about these things and be in a unique position of being somebody in the community as a writer, as a columnist, or as somebody that's, people say activist. I don't use that term. But if I've been involved in the community for a long time, so when I see things like this that happens, it makes it incredibly unfortunate. Which is why when I wanted to write something about this, I wanted to tie it in with the New Brooklyn and the free time situation, because the framing of what I wanted to say was, I was like, hey, I've been writing for the free time since I was 19 years old. I'm 42 now, right? New Brooklyn Tavern was one of the first places I performed at as a musician, as when I was a teenager. More than anything about taking sides, I want to talk about these are two major institutions in Columbia that are very important to me, that I need to see y'all work this shit out, right? And I think
Yeah.
that was primarily what I wanted to write about, and kind of tie in the election with that, and kind of tie in kind of some of these things with the community needing to work together. But at the time, things were just so turbulent that I thought if I wrote anything about, the New Brooklyn situation, and New Brooklyn supporters saw the word free times associated with it, that it was just going to kind of just have this whole attack of people supporting New Brooklyn, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
If I sent a column defending New Brooklyn Tavern to the Free Times, they might not want to run it. So it was just something that was just extremely unfortunate. Because I know what it looks like when the city doesn't work together with stuff. Like from a creative perspective and an artist perspective, I know what it felt like doing hip hop shows and not getting government funding, not getting grants, not having venues that want to fuck with you. So like, I remember the days of infighting, and I just don't think that it's the direction it needs to go into, especially when it's just, man, man, when Trump gets that third term, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
why would you?
all this shit, man. We need to figure this stuff out right now. And so I think that was kind of one of the things that I kind of really want to talk about, and what made me uncomfortable about the accusations with the election was, as a Black man from the South, I know historically, when there's accusations of things, when you're accused of something, sometimes that if you're accused of something, all it takes is a sprinkle of an accusation, and it can be damning to your reputation, it can be damning to your life, it could be damning to whatever. So I'm really, really hardcore about, like, yo, if you're going to say, on the record that Sam's top donors are responsible for this, if you're going to say that his people are responsible, or he's responsible, or he's behind it, he need to drop out the race, one or two things: either have evidence or lead into an investigation. And I don't know if an investigation has happened or is going to happen, but I'm just really, really careful that if I say anything, I want to make sure that I have evidence to back it up. And that's why I brought up my name being tied into an AI story, right?
Yeah.
And because honestly, I didn't see that whole article written about me in Dawn Staley. Somebody sent that shit to me, right?
And then you sent it to me.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, so I say that to say that there is at times a lot of disinformation, whether it's negative, whether it could be, sometimes it could be misinformation that is probably considered lighthearted. It could be something, whatever. But when I say things are real or not real, or someone has, if someone's being malicious, I want to make sure that there's real evidence and support for that. And that was something that, seeing how that went online, because I didn't respond to any of those comments. I just, from the background looking in, I just saw it all just got really, really nasty, of people in the comments leading up to the election. And I just thought that was really, really unfortunate. And so I hope that, since things are kind of simmered down now, that things will get back to normal, and hopefully, between the both of them, between Oddity and Sam, I don't think Oddity is going to not be involved in the community, not be involved with outreach, not be involved with being somebody that people can look towards. I hope she's still involved as well, and I think the city needs both of them, and the city has room for both of them.
I think the city would benefit from having both of them.
Absolutely.
I think Sam is outstanding, and Oddity, her years already having been a council member, I think that she was one of the good voices in, recognizing the issues. By the way, parking is still a bitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Oddity, that can be. I would proudly support your campaign if you would just get the whole parking situation fixed. And when I say parking, I mean the fact that these the whole application program, the app that you have to sign into, it doesn't tell you when parking times are no longer necessary to pay for. You got people paying on the weekends because they think they have to pay because the app will let them pay.
Yeah.
It's such a jacked up situation, and it seems to me like it's something that would be easy to fix. And it's been an issue for almost 2 years now, and the city of Columbia is profiting off of people not recognizing when they have to use the app to pay for parking and when they don't. And
yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of I think sometimes, and let me figure out the best way to kind of explain it, because it makes sense in my head. But I think if there was something that, if someone asked me if I was running for like a national political seat or something like that, what's something that I want to change? I remember years ago where the Obama administration was pushing for something to eradicate huge overdraft fees with banks, right? Because there used to be a time where, as an artist, I went through that shit where, you go through something and all of a sudden you turn around, you have 9 or 10 overdraft fees, and overdraft fees are $35 each, and you're in this hole, right? So there was something that was put towards, hey man, we're going to have a limit on how these overdraft fees are, because there's technically billions of dollars that banks were collecting from overdrafts, which meant that they're collecting money from people that don't have any money, right? So in a way, it felt like predatory lending, right? Or it felt predatory in a sense, but it reminded me of predatory lending, where you'll loan people this money, they don't have the money to pay it back, and then you stress them the fuck out and all this type of stuff. I feel similar that if you do something with an app and they're like, hey, this is a trial run for a week. And then after that week, they're going to like bust you over the head for $35 a month or $30 a month for a subscription or something like that. Or if you are in a situation where you're going in to cancel a subscription in time, it makes it so difficult to cancel subscriptions. I feel like things like that are not user friendly and designed to make it difficult for people to opt out of things, designed for people to not be able to find information that they need to find, and it just makes it like a kind of a headache. And I say that because that seems to be kind of the language that I think people usually hear when it comes to situations with parking or anything dealing with like paying bills with the city. Like there's something that always happens where people like, the information isn't as clear. I don't know what I should do. I don't know how to do this. I literally had a time where someone put a ticket on my car when I was outside and I paid with my app and I had to go to the meter person. And mind you, they're automatically already on edge because anybody that goes to one of those people, they're already assuming that someone's going to cuss them out because they have a ticket. So I have to be, excuse me, hey, how you doing? Listen, on my app, this is my car. I'm still covered right now. And the person looks at it, says, oh, we messed that up. And then like cleared it up on the spot.
Right.
But I'm like, what would have happened if I was an upset person? What would have happened if the average person goes through these things and they're paying these fines? And so I get it. But that was one of the things that I've heard a lot about are people dealing with those, dealing with the payments for the meters and things like that. It's been very frustrating.
Well, and just to acknowledge, Columbia is not the only customer that Passport uses for their parking. So, there's something like 980 or 1,000 cities that are also using the same app. So Columbia being, number 84 in the market means that the potential is that they may not be very high up on the priority list, which I get, but just explain it. Just tell us, you're trying to work with them. But I've tried to contact Rickman to come on the show to talk about literally that several times and gotten no response. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah. It's not maybe you and I can just go park outside his office. We'll just
all right, let's see how they go.
We'll bring some chairs.
I interviewed him for my pod like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
I would say he seemed gung-ho to do it. I had to reach out to him a couple of times. And then when I reached out to him again, with the text messaging, I never heard back. So I don't know. This might have been one like, hey, you already got your one conversation. Right?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, Rickman, you can sit right here. My arm will just right here. Anyway. Yeah. And people have told me he's not a bad guy. I think that he's done fairly well as far as responding to the people in the community about the issues that they have. And he seems to listen, and he's very quick to send a letter in response to letters that he receives. So that to me is the sign of a good representative if they're at least willing to acknowledge that you are trying to communicate with them.
Oh, speaking of which, I think this is important to say as well. You can tell I haven't done a pod in a while because I'm very wordy, but I feel like, I had a couple conversations.
I thought you were just an author.
Listen, that too. No, I had a couple conversations with Jessica Thomas that ran for mayor. I interviewed her for the podcast, and then we had to sit down after the election, kind of. And it was kind of like I was really impressed with her saying, like, from the outside looking in, what were your thoughts on this? What were your thoughts about the election? And she was really, really upset about losing the campaign to Rickman, and I'm like, well, look, I was like, very rarely do people win their first election. I mean, people like Oddity probably won their first election, things like that. Obama probably won all his elections, whatever. But those are really kind of outlier situations. And I said to her that usually people would run for something small and build their way up. And the fact that like a 27-year-old woman is running for mayor, I just thought that what I think is really important that I've been seeing, and I think this uptick happened especially after Trump was elected their first term. You're seeing a lot more young people getting involved in the political spectrum that probably wouldn't have done it before, right? You've seen like these large numbers of young people coming in. AOC came out of this. You have New York's mayor is 34 years old. You have Dr. Jermaine Johnson, who's running for governor. Shout out to him on the Breakfast Club. So I'm really excited to see young people, and especially excited to see young people of color getting involved in the political process. Which I feel like if you lose an election, I don't want you to be discouraged. I would say that I think it's promising to see that, because I think that one of the conversations that we have about local politics is that it feels like, I wouldn't even say local politics, like the president's, all the shit they said about Joe Biden, age-wise, Trump is falling asleep during
Yeah.
during briefings, right? So I do think that it is necessary for younger people to say, hey, it's our time to get involved. And any young people that I see that get involved, I wanna salute them, because in my mind, there's no way in hell I want to get involved with stuff like that again. There's no way in hell I want to get involved in politics again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that the people that are running, whether it's small districts, whether it's, mayorship, whether it's gubernatorial, whatever, I just want to encourage young people to be involved and to move forward,
Well, and on the heels of what you've expressed there, I want to remind people, at least here in District 88, that we're recording on a Thursday night, but the election is literally a special election for District 88, the seat that R.J. May vacated from his prison cell after he pled guilty to multiple charges of child endangerment and sexual exploitation. Used this podcast, and I endorsed Colonel Hightower, because I think that Colonel Hightower represents exactly what District 88 needs. Because at one point I was potentially going to run for that seat, but after having gotten to know Colonel Hightower and becoming close friends with him, that he is the candidate that the district needs, because I'm fucking awful. Like, I am I am insufferable. I am egotistical, and I use my words to point out people's lack of intelligence on things.
Hey man, you keep talking, you might be able to run for president. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that's a good idea either, but at least I'd be I think that I'd be more acceptable than what we currently have. But that's my opinion. I'm one of 342 million people. So, I also want to say that this year, you started your podcast this year, as well as we had several runs of the Soul House sessions with Preach Jacobs, which I got to attend. I want to say I got to attend 2 of them or 3 of them.
Did you go to Nikki Finney?
Nikki Finney was so fantastic, and I have gotten feedback from people that listened to the podcast, the episode of the Soul House sessions with Nikki and Professor Finney, right? I mean, and they were just she had, and I get it. People are going to say the same thing over and over. Barrett cries too easy, and I get it. But like, her message and her strength and just the passion that she has, she had me in tears sitting in that audience. Just unbelievable. And then when you and Dre pulled out the portrait that Dre did of her, dude, I mean, chills. Like, I had goosebumps from her reaction and y'all's reaction too. Because
and I love Nikki because Nikki, she's a civil rights activist. Her father, the first Black South Carolina Supreme Court Justice, Supreme Court Justice of South Carolina, Ernest Finney. There's a center named after him. So she's been gangster. She's been involved in this community. She's been through the movement. We started our conversation and she's just like, I'm not here to entertain. I ain't putting up with no bullshit. So when we were first talking and we were just like, she's like, I want to have a real conversation. I was like, yo, I got something for you too. At the end of this, and she's like, yo, ain't nothing gonna bother me. You know what I mean? Like, she was really kind of like, So to see that response from her,
you shocked her,
man. Look, and shout out to Dre. And I say this
100%.
I say this lovingly about my boy Dre. I say this lovingly about Dre. Deadline is not his best friend. right?
Sure.
And let's just say that we were having a conversation on my porch to create that art piece for Nikki. It was probably 2 weeks out from the event.
Yeah.
And so that meant that he had to like illustrate it. He had to, create it, illustrate it, and then we had to have the leeway to get it printed and get it in on time. So for him to get that done as quickly as he did, that is the fastest I've ever seen that man get work done. And when I was pitching the idea to him, I'm like, this is the response that I want to get out of it. You know what I mean? And I think that it's important that the people that have been doing work here, especially, it's important to me as kind of someone that I'm a Black creative here, Black author here, that when I see people that have been doing those things in the past, I want to have an avenue to show that respect and love and let them know they appreciate it, because I don't think enough of that happens, right? I think that comes from hip hop culture, and hip hop culture is always fuck the old, move in with the new, right? And some of it is a survivalist tactic, and I get it. But I also think that paying homage to those people that look like you and went through the stuff that you went through, and showing them that respect, I think that's very, very important. And so that response from her has been a big deal. And when we get off mic, I want to tell you what I have planned, maybe for January, February, that we can get your help with. That's kind of in that same vein. But yeah,
Sure.
So the first, for the audience who don't understand, I don't know, my art gallery, Soul House, was on Lincoln Street, 1223 Lincoln Street. And we've relocated inside the Coker Center for the Arts. And when we relocated, the partnership was, hey guys, I don't want to just have you guys absorb the artwork that we have on the walls from these amazing artists. I want you guys to help me absorb some of this programming. And one of the things that I wanted to do was have low overhead programming that was very, very simple to orchestrate, but impactful. And so we wanted to do this thing called Soul House Sessions, which is literally, 2 chairs, and have a little table in the middle with some bourbon maybe, and have a conversation with impactful people in the community. And then we'll have an artist feature. So the Nikki Finney show, it was her and I having a conversation. Dre Lopez had his art show or his art exhibit, and then we had the Nikki art that we revealed to her as a gift. The next one we had Amethyst Ganaway, who is a chef out of Charleston, a nationally recognized chef that's incredible, that does the work with South Carolina State Museum, with Harvest and Heritage. For October, we had a ColaCon panel, which is the event that I did. It's a hip hop comics convention that we did years ago that we're going to open back up again for 2026 at the Coker Center. More information on that coming soon. And kind of on a more sadder and personal note, our November Soul House Sessions was going to be with my friend and author, Delana Dameron, who author of Barrett Court. We planned to do November. She was under the weather in November, ended up in a hospital for a bit. So we ended up moving the date to December. And unfortunately, before that date happened, she ended up passing away. And so we kind of just shut stuff down for the rest of the year. So she's been a really, really incredible influence on me with her work. For people that don't know the stuff that she's done, she's an amazing author. Redwood Court is her debut book that was under Random Penguin House. Her next book that's coming out posthumously is going to be called Fairfield County. The New York Times did a bit on her. And today, if you're hearing this on Monday, my essay about Delana is out today on Free Times / Post and Courier. So it was just an amazing loss for the community. And her work was really, really highly specific towards, the heartache of growing up in the Black South. And one of the things that I thought was really, really brilliant about her story was that there's a lot of conversations, especially with creatives, that, hey, if you're going to do something well, you got to get the fuck out of South Carolina. You got to leave. And so South Carolina was always seen as, if you're here, come back here, it's some type of failure. And she never looked at it like that. She really, really embraced the South Carolina roots. She really, really embraced writing about Black life in South Carolina and wrote about, people that look like my family in the communities that would never get the type of attention that a national publisher would give, So I'm not doing it justice for anybody to get a chance. Like, please read the column, check out her work. Just an amazing, amazing loss. But yeah, but after that happened, we kind of was just like, all right, out of respect for her and the family, we wanted to take some time before we did another Soul House sessions. And maybe we plan to do something where I was having a conversation and I wanted to reach out to her husband and see what we wanted to do together. That maybe we'll do something where it's just her family and friends coming to recite some of her work. So the event would be like, hey, do you have a poem? Do you have a story? Do you have this? And I just think that it's really special that her work did the heavy lifting for us. Because I went to her service last week, and as I said in the column, I was just like, this is the first time I've been to like a Black funeral, and the preacher didn't give a eulogy. We did it.
Yeah.
Everybody got in line and they said, what they thought and felt. And a lot of times they pulled out some of her work as if she was preparing us for the moment. So
Yeah.
an amazing, amazing loss to Columbia and to the literary world. But that was what we were working on. And I think that in the spirit of her work and what she's doing, I had some things that I want to do for 2026 to kind of keep the memory going and to keep the energy going. Her and I would talk quite often, and she was a big supporter of the Soul House sessions. She was ready to talk her shit, and she would be like, yo, get these people, do these conversations. It's important. And a lot of times they get discouraging because you'll do events and people don't show up, or you don't sell enough tickets, or, am I making an impact? And so she was very, very, very instrumental on the drive motherfuckers about to see coming from me now. She's been kind of the battery in my back for it. So 26 is going to be an important year for me. So yeah.
I absolutely encourage everyone to go and read the article in the free times, because when first of all, Preach, you are an unbelievably good writer.
Appreciate
because what you write is so easy for me to read, and I I did not hold back any tears. You could absolutely feel your loss. And honestly, people, she was such an even outside of the writing, the benefits and the foundations that she was a part of, the fact that she was basically the Black Annie Oakley, riding fucking horseback and shooting at targets. There are YouTube videos of just how accomplished she was. And you said she was a superhero who wore a cowboy hat and boots. And
listen, man, no hyperbole, man, because like, and this is, and I want to talk my shit for a second too, because I said this in the article as well. It was, her and I would have these conversations about, there's always this grass greener on the other side type of thing, where she really, really loved Columbia. She loved South Carolina, and was just like, yo, I wish I had, we would talk. She'd be like, I wish I had the type of, attention and love that Columbia gives you, Preach. And I'd be like, well, shit, I wish I had the national acclaim that you had, right? And so, and that was one of the things that we were doing for the Soul House sessions, was like, yo, let's have this conversation shit in Columbia. Let's talk our shit, I'm really, really frustrated. I reached out to a friend of mine at the state paper, and, this wasn't his department, but I was like, hey, I said, this is an author from here, Delana Dameron. You'll have to cover her. You'll have to do an obit. You'll have to write something. And my friend was like, oh, all right, that's not my department, but I'll send it up the ladder. And so as of today, I haven't seen the state newspaper write anything about her. And when I say the New York Times had an amazing obit where you're talking about her work in riding horses, they have videos of her riding horses, shooting targets. It was absolutely incredible. And as much as I was touched that New York Times wrote about her and covered her, I was really frustrated that the local publication here that she used to write for, by the way, she used to write for the state, didn't write shit about her. And so, so I was really vocal about that. Not really vocal, but I was vocal about that in my column as well. And I think that that this is kind of why I think now this is kind of like an important thing for me. It's like, yo, a part of me feels like I need to be the person to speak on behalf of these people and these people that are doing great things. That it's frustrating that local press, which all she gave a fuck about, local press, didn't show her the respect that she deserved. And I think that was really, really heartbreaking. So, like I said,
Yeah.
because the New York Times, like, they could have just wrote a blurb, but it was incredible. So for that to happen, I hope somebody at the state is ashamed that they didn't cover her, and they need to fix that shit quickly. So
Yeah.
that's my 2
She
cents.
in 2009 she had a collection of poetry under the title How God Ends Us, which, I don't feel like she foretold her own demise, but it, first of all, what a title.
What a title.
She was recognized by South Carolina Poetry Book Prize. The next one was the Weary Kingdom, which, God, for someone as accomplished as she was, you could tell that there was a sincere desire for better in everything that she wrote. She received the Palmetto Poetry Series selection for that. Redwood Court was one of the Reese Book Club picks in the New York Times editorial choices. Fairfield County is a book that's coming out from Penguin in June of 2026. I'm excited about. I think I really look forward to it. I regret that I never had an opportunity to meet her, and I appreciate the fact that you have so many experiences with her that I feel like you and I just sitting down having a drink, I get to hear at least secondhand those experiences. One of the big things that she has is the equestrian. I want to call it a farm, but it's Saloma Acres, and that's in Blythewood, right? Basically an equestrian and cultural center space that she founded. It's 22 and a half acres. And I don't want anyone to leave this without knowing that there is available. You can make donations to.
Link, I'll get it to you because the husband sent me a link. I'll get it to you. We'll put it in the bottom of because that was some inside baseball. She had 8 horses and pigs and donkeys and amazing animals, and I don't know how deep the husband was with the equestrian part of everything, because that was her passion and her love. And so I was afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what he's going through. Is this going to be something where he's going to, find new homes for the animals that's there? And so to hear that they're going through the efforts to maintain that was important. So we'll put the link in there, because I made sure I spoke to him, and I was like, before I put anything public, I want to make sure that he was good with it. So I'll get you the new link for that one as well. And shout out to Curtis, because Curtis in his own right is a community activist as well.
Curtis John.
Yeah.
Curtis John. Yeah. Look him up. Look him up.
And they were, he's a film guy. So anytime you would see screenings of Black movies with Luminal Arts in Columbia, he was behind that. And him and Delana, every holiday season, they would show movies at the farm. They'll show The Preacher's Wife, and they would do community outreach things on the farm and get people to be around horses, be around nature. So it was really, really a joint effort to finding creative ways to interact with the community. So I just want to say love and shout out to him as well. But yeah, definitely get that link to you as well. To anybody that want to support.
Another important one, Black Arts Future Fund, is one that she was heavily involved in 2017 to 2023. Basically a supporting community-based Black arts organizations. So, what she did with her time, her available time, just unbelievably outstanding. And like you said, and she expressed, the fact that the city that she's from didn't really see, she was one of those hidden treasures. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want her to be hidden anymore. It's just, I do look forward to the Soul House sessions continuing. And of course, whatever help I can be is, ultimately because I love you and the success. I want to see you succeed enough to be president of the United States. Maybe number 50. Yeah. So 2026, there's a lot to look forward to. I think that I know we don't have a lot of the details on it, but I'm really looking forward to the con coming up next year.
I will say this is a bit of a breaking news because I don't know if we're going to have this available by the time people see this, but I'm announcing it first. So we're bringing ColaCon back, and what we plan to do is have a GoFundMe to encourage the community to help us make this thing happen. We have a headliner that is not public yet that we're working on. I don't want to say anything until paperwork are signed and things like that. But for people that have come to the experience of the ColaCon events, we've had everyone from Ghostface from Wu-Tang Clan to Fight from Tribe Called Quest to Talib Kweli to Pete Rock to some of the most amazing comic book illustrators in the industry. I think we have a great track record of letting the community know that we do some dope shit with hip hop and comics. And so the way we're gonna do our GoFundMe, instead of just having just a pitch video, a partner with my friend Bill Grant for As Told By podcast. And so we basically did a podcast interview / GoFundMe pitch. And the interview was with Sanford Green, talking about the importance of hip hop and comics. So when we put this out, it's going to have the information to be able to donate and give to help ColaCon happen. And also going to have a talk with the leading man with hip hop and comic book culture, Sanford. So that's gonna be coming soon. We're getting the website and everything squared away now. If anybody has any interest in being involved with ColaCon or sponsoring, y'all can send me a message directly. Just follow me as Preach Jacobs on all the social media thingies as we get things ready for ColaCon. But it is coming soon. We're looking at doing it for fall of 26. And the only reason we don't have a specific date yet is for two reasons. We want to make sure that we're not getting in the way of USC sports, because we know that Columbia is a USC town. And also this particular group that we're looking at bringing, I want to make sure that I adjust accordingly for their schedule to bring one of the dopest headlines I don't think has ever been in Columbia, South Carolina. So something I'm working on now. Very, very passionate about it. And more info on that shall be coming soon. But this is the first place that I'm announcing that we're going to do the GoFundMe. And hopefully, the community is gonna look out for us and make this shit happen.
Well, I know who you're talking about, but Darius Rucker has been here before, so it's not a. Speaking of, I'm just gonna say this: Darius Rucker, Mike Mills from REM, and the dude from Black Crowes. They came out with a new song, or they came out with a group. So
Really?
It's called Howl Owl Howl. They have a song called My Cologne, which is all about putting on Ariana Grande's scent or whatever. Dude, it that song takes me back to the late 90s, early 2000s, because I saw REM every time they were in Atlanta. I saw REM when they would just be doing shit at Eddie's Attic, or the Attic in Athens. And Darius Rucker, I don't know that he'd remember my name, but we definitely hung out some while he would record, because when I was working at Kicks 101.5 in Atlanta, Darius Rucker was coming into our country station and recording him singing, because he knew he was moving into country music.
Wow. So this is post Hootie. Okay. Wow.
It was right at the end of Hootie and before Darius got signed to a country album. So
sidebar, before he got into country, he put on an R&B album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he was on a small R&B record label called Hidden Beach that discovered Jill Scott, and he had a whole R&B record. It wasn't a bad record. It just, he just really looked uncomfortable. So it's like, yo, man, Sing the shit
but-
that's in your heart. You know what I'm
But
saying?
if he's,
R&B music ain't your shit, man. Sing Wagon Wheel. We still love
but
it. Like,
I was gonna say, but if he's not wearing a ball cap and a half tucked in shirt and torn up jeans, I don't think he ever looks comfortable anyway.
yeah, absolutely. So,
But
all right. So quick. Speaking of country music, so, I was asked if I wanted to go to a country concert for the Free Times to write a review. A couple of years back. Or was this before the pandemic? I can't remember. Anyways, it was a few years back. Free Times wanted me. They basically were just like, "Yo, we're getting free tickets to Jason Aldean. We don't have anybody to write about it. Would you be interested in writing about it?" And I think they were unsure if I would do it because of the hip hop dude. And I'm like, "Are you going to pay me?" And I was like, "Sure." I was like, "Fuck it, I'll go." Right. So they gave me 2 tickets, and I made sure I took a white friend as backup. You never know. You never know. You know, I was going to be outnumbered completely. But but you know, and plus it wasn't a white country friend. It's my guy's from Boston. And he's like a big Patriots fan. So like we both part of been in trouble. But anyways, so we get in there, and I'm like the only black guy in there, right? And I'm joking with my friend. I was like, "Yo, dog, I'm the only black guy in here. I don't know what to do. This is uncomfortable." My friend said, "Yo, dog, don't worry about it. Since you're the only black guy in here, they're just going to think you're Darius Rucker." So that was our inside joke the whole night. Like he was just calling me Darius, and it was just fucking hilarious. And it was uncomfortable because when Jason Aldean is singing these songs, which are huge records that I don't know none of the fucking words to, right? Because I don't listen to it. But people are assuming if you're here, you're a fan. So there'll be these moments when we were standing, it'll be like some really beautiful blonde white chick staring at me, thinking they flirt with me. And it would be like a song, an important Jason Aldean song. And they're singing the lyrics along with him on stage. And they're looking at me like they want me to mouth the lyrics with them, right? This is going to be a moment for us, right? Because we're sharing this moment of loving this artist. And so when I was thrown in that moment, you know how I got out of it? I just acted like the music touched me so much I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was like, right? So they probably helped even more. They said, "Oh my goodness, Darius loves this song so much." But there was a moment, Jason Aldean, the song stopped. He's like, "All right, bye everybody. About to bring somebody to the stage, somebody y'all know quite well. Darius Rucker, come on now." And as soon as he said that, my friend said, "Oh no, the gig is up."
Did Darius Rucker actually walk out on stage?
Yeah, he performed. Yeah, he performed. Yeah. Like Jason Aldean was the biggest motherfucker out at that time, right? So yeah. So that shit was hilarious. So
you want to know how disconnected from country music I am now?
What's up?
I don't know a single Jason Aldean song. I couldn't name a single one. And I know there are people that are listening to this or watching this going, you know Jason Aldean songs. I don't know they're him. I couldn't, that's, and that's my fault, because my playlist. So do you do Spotify or Google or whatever? What was when you did your year in review? What was your age?
I'm much older than what I'm supposed to be. I think I'm like 50 something. Yeah.
71.
Really?
71.
Old and grumpy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Which I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I go to concerts like Ben Folds or I go to like Cake or Bare Naked Ladies or Blues Traveler or whatever, everyone else in that audience older than me. They're all older than me, But that's just whatever, Well, it's going to be, I think that it's going to be a good year. I think 2026 is going to be good for you. I think it's going to be good for the podcast. I think it's going to be good for Soul House Sessions. And ultimately, I look forward to riding your coattails because, there's no shame in admitting that that we need help. And here's the funny thing. While we're doing this podcast, I'm literally getting text messages from people asking me about Donald Trump hosting the Hunger Games.
I just saw that. All right, can I say something? I'm gonna tell you a theory that I have because I'm working on I'm working on an essay, like an end of the year essay, and kind of is going to be like the things that I love this year, things I hate this year, this and that. And one of the things that really inspired me, going back to the Nikki Finney conversation, was, I was talking to her and I'll bring up, oh my gosh, look at all this crazy shit going on with this administration. And she was like, I am not going to allow them to distract me from what's important. If she's a poet, if she's a writer, if she's an essayist, if she's an author, there's so many things that I can talk about that needs to be focused on in my community that I don't have to bring this person up. And so I thought that was really, really an interesting take. And I had this theory, and I don't know how well I'm going to articulate it, but it's something that I'm working on, that I'm going to write about. So bear with me for a second. But there was an episode of The Simpsons, and I forgot the premise of it exactly, but it was basically like there were these billboards that came to life and took over the town, right? So there was a billboard of a big kid. The big kid started walking through the town and terrorizing shit. Whatever was on the billboard came to life, right? So everybody in Springfield was freaking out because these huge billboards were terrorizing the town, making people do what they didn't want to do. Everybody was unhappy. And at one point, Lisa's having a conversation with somebody and was just like, yo, do you know how you get rid of a billboard? And I was like, how? She was like, you ignore them. And so Springfield, when the billboard monsters are acting up, everybody would just act like they didn't exist, because if you don't pay attention to the billboard, they're going to replace it with something else, right? And so I just thought that premise was just so interesting, looking at anything that this administration is doing. But I'm like, yo, what if for one day, all news outlets did a blackout on his shit?
I've had that exact same thought before.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, if somehow we could get all of the news organizations to just not report on Trump, have the room empty, just anything he throws out on social media, just let it go. Don't show any sort of recognition of any of what he's saying or what he's doing or his behavior or fuck if he dies, just for one day, just let it go. And the profound what that would potentially do for us as a society and a planet, like to say that we could cut ourselves off from having to deal with anything that he does and just, see the sky for the color of blue, or the trees and the green and the brown and the black and the, just enjoy the smells on the air, right? Just
I feel like this. I feel like because I remember, in 2015 when he first started running, because he was circling around South Carolina a lot. And there's like a local photographer that does great work here that was assigned those Charleston and those like bumblefuck towns in South Carolina rallies that he was doing. This photographer was like, yo, I would go to these rallies and it'd be like 4 people. Like, no one would be there. And I really think that, I think that left-wing media is probably just as complicit as him getting elected as the right-wing media, because what I think
100%.
happened was, when he would say crazy shit, even if the room didn't have anybody in there, left publications would write about how absurd he was, yes. But if you have somebody in rural America reading these publications or seeing them on the news, even if he's being made fun of, they're going to say, well, look, why are they talking about him more than Hillary? And people just assume that if I hear about you more, that means that you're more popular or that you're the better candidate. And then that's when you started seeing those numbers rise. So I feel like, he has no shame. So it's not like bad press is going to discourage him. All he cares about is the algorithm. It's a click. It's a click. It's good for me, right? And so I really want to see. And I get it. I get news outlets. And if you're doing professional news and shit like that, it's difficult to not talk about what's happening in the world, not talk about politics. But as somebody that is writing and covering cultural content, art, creative stuff, community outreach stuff, even we're talking about local politics, man, we could talk about politics in a local situation without talking about that, right? And I think that that's probably going to be one of the bigger things that I want to take on for 2026 is to not give that motherfucker any press. And I think that if we exercise that, it would allow us to kind of figure out how to navigate things without bringing up the outrage. I'm thinking it's like, what happened with Rob Reiner and how terrible that was and his response to that. And I'm like, we knew this is who he is, right?
Right.
So it doesn't do me any good reposting some absurd or inhumane thing that he said about Rob Reiner and his wife, because we know that's who he is. So there's nothing. It's totally irredeemable.
It's not newsworthy.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not reportable. Well, let's pick a date. Let's come up with a date that we say this is the Trump blackout date. And
I love that.
You know what? MLK Day. Now that MLK Day is no longer recognized federally, for national parks, because national parks on federal holidays, you get into national parks free.
All right, I'm with it. All right,
MLK Day should be a national blackout day of anything related to Trump. We'll go back to it Tuesday, but just for Monday. Let's.
I'm down with that. Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. All right. Well, Preach, I sincerely appreciate you coming on and doing this sort of review, talking about Delana, and Soul House sessions and everything. I want to remind everybody, every Tuesday at Lulu Drake's on Main Street, Columbia, South Carolina, Preach is there spinning records. You can sit down, you can drink with him.
Please.
He will all the shots you want to buy for him. He'll sit there and happily. Look, for my sake, I'm going to tell you, he's got a limit. Don't overindulge him, please, because I would say this. If somebody wants to overindulge me and I'm hitting that limit, instead of buying me another shot, I want to encourage people to subscribe to my Substack. So go to Substack.com. Absolutely, 100%. I was going to mention that too.
So, and that's what I want to start trying to do, right? And I was kind of like on the council of Delana, where she was really vocal about, be proactive. Don't wait for the free times to say we want a column from you. Like, write your shit. And sometimes it gets discouraging because you'll write a lot and don't feel like you have a home for it. She's like, put it out yourself, put it out your own Substack. And so, I'm like, all right, let's try to do some articles that are free, but let's see if I can have a paywall and do things like the podcast, or do things like DJ sessions, or do things like deeper conversations that I can film and just have really a bunch of creative things to get people to support. So so instead of that shot, I would say subscribe to that Substack, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So check the links in the show notes, because Substack, Preach's Substack is out there too, and you are publishing fairly regularly to it, and the articles are fantastic. Now I'm going to have to subscribe because they're behind a paywall.
Yes, you got your money. I mean, and based on so based
I'll give
on
you my money anyway.
Thank you for the shots. But I based on Delana's recommendation, she's like, you need to be putting out once a week, and the Free Times wants me bi-weekly. So I'm essentially saying, all right, well, one column a week. Like find yourself doing that. Force yourself to do it. And I'll say this. Is kind of a dismount. One of the motivations that I have when I get discouraged about writing, there was, is it Peter Hamill? Can't remember, but it was a really, really famous columnist. I think he wrote for the New York Post way back in the day. Really, really grumpy guy, but an amazing columnist. And there was a great documentary on him on HBO. And there was something that he was talking about, because he had to write a column constantly. I don't know if he had a daily thing or a weekly thing. He had to write it constantly. And he said there was a moment where it was difficult for him to figure out something to write. And an older person from the newspaper came to him and said, yo, man, you got a deadline. What's going on? And he said, man, I don't know. I have writer's block. He said this old newspaper guy looked at him and said, you're not important enough to have writer's block. This shit done. And I thought that was just so anytime I'm discouraged, I'm like, nah, why do you have writer's block? Fuck you. Right. So whether or not it's good or not, I'll leave it to you guys. When y'all subscribe, y'all can fuss at me if it's not good enough. But what I am going to do is I'm going to be proactive and write. And sidebar, I've had this sitting in front of me. This book here, Sing the Truth, is a compilation of short stories. Delana is in here as well. So when I was working on my column, I remember she gave this to me as well. So I think it'd be cool that we put a link to her books in there as well. I think it'd be dope.
Yeah, 100%. I will absolutely do that. Yeah, I'll put a link to all of her publications and her books, because I want her memory to go on as outstanding as she was. Between you and her husband, I think that her legacy is going to continue. So that's what I look forward to.
Thank you, man.
Well, thank you, sir.
Brother. All right.
Love you too. All right, buddy. I'm going to wrap it up. It's going to do it for this episode 286. Links to all of our past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media available on our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content. Visit members.theallaboutnothing.com, or you can find a link on our webpage. Till the next time, you all have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Everyone stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself.
The All About Nothing podcast is a product of Big Media and produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. You can follow me across social media by visiting Linktree/Barrett Gruber. And you can follow Zach King on Linktree/AANZach. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. To find links to our social media, podcast platforms, and merchandise to support the show, as well as past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can email theshow@theallaboutnothing.com, or you can call our number and leave a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our sister shows. What the Pod Was That with Carrie, Zach, and myself. Welcome to Wonderland with Ami. Politically Speaking with Erica, Kirsten, and Emily, and Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jameel Brooks and Bill Kimmler. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and punch that notification bell. Thank you for listening, and hear us next week. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media, LLC, and is copyright 2025, all rights reserved.